Hey guys, this is God of Politics, and welcome back to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on Twitter, that is linked down in the description and on my channel page right here, as well as join the Discord that is also linked down in the description. But today's video is going to be another video where I'll be looking at the electoral map, and this video is going to be doing how states will trend in 2020 compared to 2016, how they will trend or swing. You can really, they're interchangeable in some ways. We're going to be doing, in terms of the margin of victory, how will it change from 2016. Now this does not show long-term trends. A state may trend blue that in the future will trend heavily red, but as for this election, it may trend blue. So that's what I'm going to be looking at in this election. I've already made videos of what the electoral map could look like further in the future, but that's not what this video is. This video is looking at how states individually will trend in 2020. Don't look at the electoral count for each of these states. Look at the overall number of states that are trending for each side and how many states are trending for each side. So we're just going to be going through each of these states here. We're going to start up in the Northeast here. Actually, Maine's 1st district is going to trend to the red column, but both Maine at large and Maine's 2nd district are going to trend to the blue column. I do believe that Maine's 2nd district is a district. It's obviously a district that surprised everybody in 2016 going so much to the red column. I do believe that it will go by around 6 to 7 points, which would be around a 4-point trend to the Democratic column, and Maine's 1st district will trend around 1 point to the red column, therefore making it a lean to likely margin for Maine at large, also making it trend towards the blue column. I also think that both Vermont and New Hampshire will trend towards the blue column. What you saw in Vermont in 2016 was like 10% vote that went to Bernie Sanders, and I don't think you're going to see that same kind of thing this time. I think a lot of those votes will just go to Joe Biden, which will automatically give him a larger margin of victory. And as for the state of New Hampshire, there really wouldn't be a possibility that Joe Biden wins the state with it being any closer than it was, pretty much. And so I do think that he is going to win by around a lean margin, which will push this state into the trending blue column. But I do believe that a lot of the Northeast here, including Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island, will trend towards the red column. Hillary Clinton actually did quite well in the Northeast, not as well as Obama did, but considering how bad she did overall across the country, she actually didn't do too bad in the Northeast. But there are some signs that some of these rural areas are trending, some of these suburban areas, and some of these even urban areas, less so the suburban areas. But there's signs that Republicans can do a bit better in the Northeast, similar to how they did under Reagan and Bush, who was from the Northeast. And so you're seeing a similar thing this time, and I think that those states will trend to the red column, not by very much, but enough to have a noticeable impact. The next state is going to be New York. Now, a lot of people are going to say, but Hillary Clinton was a senator there. Yes, she was the senator there, but she lost more. She won the state by less than Obama did both times, and even John Kerry did. And so it didn't really matter that she was senator here because she didn't actually do too well. She only won by around 23 percentage points. And I do think that we've seen actually some polls, which is kind of surprising. We've seen some polls that have shown Biden up by as much as 35 points, and I don't think that's necessarily realistic. I do think that it'll be by a larger margin than 2016. I also think New Jersey will be as well as Maryland and Delaware. Delaware obviously because Joe Biden's from there. Maryland because it's just nearby and it's a very Democratic state. And they do not like Donald Trump, and the state of New Jersey because Barack Obama actually didn't do too well here, and neither did Hillary Clinton. She didn't actually do too well on this part of the Northeast here, the Maryland, New York, New Jersey area, and so I do think that this area is going to trend towards the blue column just slightly, but in the future maybe it could get a little bit closer. Going down here to Virginia, I think both Virginia and North Carolina and South Carolina are all going to trend towards the blue column. You're seeing Virginia, the Fairfax counties, the suburban counties up north here, making the state heavily blue, despite the fact the rest of the state, or pretty much the rest of the state, is like West Virginia. And the suburban impact in the city is going to make a big difference. Similar to in North Carolina, the suburban impact is going to make a big difference, which will trend both of these areas to the red column along with D.C. Actually, D.C. might trend towards the red column just because Donald Trump only got 4% of the vote there, so he really cannot do too much worse than that. So I do think that he might maybe get 5 or 6% there. The next state is going to be South Carolina. I think South Carolina, you're having a larger influence amongst the black population, amongst the demographics that are changing this population and being favorable to the Democrats. And it's actually not too much of a red state. Obama lost it by less than 10 in 2008. It was around 13 in 2012 and 14 in 2016. I do believe that it'll probably be around 12 to 13 this time. Jim Clyburn will probably come out in large support for Joe Biden in the state of South Carolina, which can help him turn out black voters, as well as getting some of those suburban voters in the Charleston area. And yeah, Georgia is also going to be say it's going to trend towards the blue column. This is a state in which you see the Atlanta suburbs. Atlanta is really the only main city in the state of Georgia, but it's a pretty big city, and it's trending towards the Democratic column. Democrats are making inroads in these areas. Areas that used to go to George W. Bush by 40 points and McCain even by 25 points only went to Donald Trump by 1%, 5%, whatever it is. And that's especially in the Atlanta suburbs, and I believe that that trend will continue, and this state will trend blue. Not too much in this election, maybe only by around 2 percentage points, but that will trend blue regardless. I also believe the state of Florida will trend towards the blue column. You're seeing in the state of Florida that it does like incumbents in some ways. Incumbents do well in many cases in this state, but I do believe that Hillary Clinton lost by 1.5 percentage points. I think it'll be a lot closer than that, similar to how 2012 was closer than 2008. And so I do believe that will be closer. Alabama is very red. I think it will keep trending red. But Mississippi, I think you're going to see a larger influence from the black population, similar to Louisiana, and both of these states are going to trend blue. But a lot of the other rest of the South here, West Virginia, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma, those areas are all going to trend towards the red column here. These are areas, some of these areas have been trending red for a while here, Missouri, Indiana, West Virginia, and I think that trend will continue, and Republicans are going to continue to do well in these places. The next state is going to be Texas. Texas is trending towards the blue column. Democrats are making inroads in these areas. They are doing well in the suburbs. They're doing well with Latino populations. And even Donald Trump did better than Mitt Romney amongst Latinos, but still had a 9-point trend towards the Democratic column. That shows you that it's a real suburban trend here. And whether the GOP can go back on that if they run a more establishment type candidate is a risk that they can take if they're willing to lose the Rust Belt as well. But it doesn't even guarantee that Texas will ever be back to them. And so do you think that Texas is going to trend towards the blue column along with Kansas and Colorado? Kansas, you've seen the influence of Johnson County that barely went to Donald Trump here. It's a very suburban county that's heavily trending towards the Democratic column now. By no means is Kansas going to be a close state in the 2020 election. It will be a bit closer. Colorado, you're seeing a large influence of Latino voters of the Denver suburbs, which is going to trend the state towards the Democratic column as well. Same thing with Nebraska's second district is a very suburban district that's trending towards the Democratic column. New Mexico I'll put in the red column just because there's a lot of third-party vote that made it so that Hillary Clinton won by a larger margin. Now it's really hard to tell how much of those Gary Johnson voters would have gone to Donald Trump, but just for the sake of being generous to Trump, we're going to give him the state of New Mexico. The state of Arizona, obviously, it's one of the most notable trending places. A Maricopa County area, the Phoenix area, is trending towards the blue column, and that's going to make it, I mean, he could even go blue in this election, and that's something that people are going to have to watch out for. But overall, the state will trend towards the blue column. Hawaii will trend towards the red column just because it has a lot of Bernie bros, and maybe some of them won't turn out for Joe Biden just because it's a safe state anyway. Although Alaska will trend towards the blue column, I just think that, it might be a little bit closer, although there's really unreliable polling. I think that it might be a little bit closer. The state of Utah will also trend towards the red column. Yet I haven't been well in here. He's not here anymore compared to how he was in 2016, which kind of hindered Donald Trump's vote share in Utah, and also trended blue automatically compared to how Romney did it in 2012. I do think Idaho will trend red, Wyoming will trend red, South Dakota, North Dakota, these areas are all already red, so it doesn't really matter. Nebraska, those areas are all going to trend towards the red column, but I do believe the state of Montana is going to trend towards the blue column. It's a very weird state. Obama actually almost won it in 2008, and Democrats haven't lost a governor election here since 2000. They have a Democratic senator here. It might have a second Democratic senator in the 2020 election, but I do believe that they state overall, with the fact that this is a competitive Senate, governor, and presidential election race, it can actually turn out some Democratic voters that might not have otherwise turned out, and that will put the state in the Democratic column here. The state of Oregon, I believe, will trend a little bit towards the red column. It went by around 12 points to Hillary Clinton. I think that it might be a little bit less this time just because you're having a lot of rural influence here. But I also do believe Washington is going to trend a little bit towards the red column as well, just for the same reasons here. California, I also believe, will trend towards the red column. Hillary Clinton actually did exceptionally well here. She did better than Obama did both times, I believe. And she did exceptionally well here. And there's a lot of Bernie bros that may not turn out for Joe Biden, which could make the popular vote a bit closer. but at the end of the day, it won't be too much of an impact. It's already a safe state. Anyway, the state of Nevada with its Latino population, I do believe that Joe Biden will eventually be able to turn out some of those Latino voters. It is a very skewed left electorate, but it was very close in 2016. I think that it might trend a little bit towards the blue column compared to 2016, and Joe Biden will make that state trend blue. And then we're just going to go through the rest of these states here. Illinois, I believe, will also trend towards the blue column. Joe Biden can really turn out black voters. We've seen that in the primary, and we will probably see that in the general election as well. Obama's going to be campaigning a lot, which is going to help it too, in the Rust Belt in these areas that are near Illinois, and that's going to push this state into the trending blue column. The next two states are going to be somewhat surprises, but I do think that Iowa and Ohio are going to trend back towards the blue column. They trended so heavily red in 2016 that I don't believe it. Republicans have much more room at this point to trend more towards the red column. In the future, yes, completely. Republicans will most likely do very well in the state. They'll do better. They'll win in safe margins, similar to Indiana, which is similar to Missouri, which is similar to West Virginia. In that sort of scheme, that'll continue to happen overall. But as for this election, I do believe that they will be a little bit closer than they were in 2016, along with, the rest of the Rust Belt here. I do believe is all going to trend or swing towards the blue column. Now, if you're looking at the future, before you see this and just dislike it, if you're looking at the future, these areas are probably going to trend red. The suburban impacts, there might be some suburban impacts that could make a difference, but for now, we're just going to say that it could trend red in the future, and it probably will trend red in the future. But as for this election, I do believe that it is going to trend back towards the blue column. All the information we've seen so far, all the trend data we've seen so far, all the elections we've seen so far pointed to the fact that Democrats are going to do better here than they were in 2016. And I believe that Joe Biden will win all four of these states here at this point. And so I do believe that come election day, all four of these states, along with Iowa and Ohio and Illinois in this area, are going to trend towards the Democratic column here. But again, in the future, they will trend more towards the Republican column. But as of now, in this election, they will trend towards the Democratic column. And so looking at the map overall, it looks a lot better for Democrats than it does for Republicans. Democrats are making gains in the South and the Sun Belt. They're making gains in the Rust Belt, at least temporarily. They're making gains in areas like Kansas and Montana. And, this is a pretty good map for them overall. But in the future, it may look a little bit different for them. They may lose some areas in the Rust Belt. They may lose some areas in the Northeast. They may gain some in the Sun Belt. Well, that's just we're going to have to see in the future. But as of now, for this election, this is how I think states will trend just based off of their margins of victory. And yeah, so thank you all for watching this video. Please like and subscribe as always. Follow me on Twitter, linked in the description on my channel page. Join the Discord, linked in the description, and I will see you guys later.